I wish we had happier news to report on this morning that has so much meaning for so many Americans.
Sadly, the news is not good. A series of bomb attacks in the country of Sri Lanka, an island nation off the coast of India. The explosions targeted churches as well as hotels frequented by Western tourists.
Here's what we know as we come on the air. There were 8 explosions. More than 200 people are dead, including at least 2 Americans. Hundreds more are injured. The country's defense minister says multiple suspects have been arrested.
Nobody has claimed responsibility. Meanwhile, here in New York City, police say there are no specific credible threats to churches here, but they are monitoring the situation.
We have team coverage, our security experts standing by, but let's start with ABC's Julia McFarlane in our London bureau. Julia.
Good morning, Eva. Horrific news emerging this Easter Sunday morning. Scores of Sri Lankans and tourists among the dead. This morning, 8 explosions rocking churches and luxury hotels in Sri Lanka, killing and injuring many on this Easter Sunday. At least 2 Americans counted among the dead. 2 of the near-simultaneous explosions believed to have been carried out by suicide bombers, according to the Associated Press. The scene inside St. Sebastian's Church, catastrophic. Blood spattered on the ceiling and walls. Worshippers draped over the pews. People scrambling to help one another amid the glass and debris. Outside of St. Anthony's Shrine in the capital, Colombo, the damage significant. Glass on the ground, the blood of worshippers who came to church to celebrate Easter Mass spattered on this statue of Jesus. A horrifying, powerful sight for those who survived. Several luxury hotels were also targeted. The Cinnamon Grand, the Kingsbury and the Shangri-La in Colombo. Officials telling ABC News a number of foreigners are among the dead. Other hotels across the country now tightening security amid ongoing fears. Ambulance after ambulance rushing to local hospitals, medics desperate to save the injured. Sri Lankans this morning stunned and tearful. Hundreds lining to give blood, so many that some hospitals are having to turn volunteers away. Sri Lanka has been at peace for many years since the end of its civil war. This horror punctures not only a period of calm, but also this most joyful of Christian celebrations. Eva?
And Julia, Pope Francis celebrating Easter at the Vatican this morning, mentioning the attacks in Sri Lanka.
Yes, that's right. Pope Francis, he referenced Sri Lanka right at the top of his Easter greeting, saying, "I learned with great sadness the news of the attacks in Sri Lanka today. I wish to show my affection to the Christian community there, struck whilst gathered together in prayer, and to the victims of all such cruel violence." Now, over in Rome, security is always very tight this time of year, but sadly, the church has been targeted on Easter before. We've seen such attacks in Egypt and Pakistan in recent years. Eva?
Julia McFarlane in London. Thank you, Whit.
All right, Eva, joining us now from Washington is Brad Garrett, a former FBI special agent and ABC News analyst. Brad, thanks for being with us. We do appreciate it. Of course, we're still awaiting more details about these attacks, but we know the 8 blasts were sophisticated, targeting churchgoers and tourists on Easter Sunday. What does that tell investigators?
Well, it tells them, obviously, that this attack is probably toward Christians, and that they targeted places where foreigners, going to be probably a number of British citizens that were on Sri Lanka at the time. So this is to make a statement that, look, we're going after you, the religion.
And Brad, for some Americans who might not be as familiar with Sri Lanka, this is a country that has recently experienced civil war. What can you tell us about that and whether security services would have been prepared for an attack like this?
Okay, so Sri Lanka got their independence in the late 1940s from the British. They've had this ongoing civil war with the Tamil Tigers, which are primarily Hindu, and this has gone off and on for literally decades. There is a thing called the State Intelligence Service that's had its own issues with corruption, and so my guess is this may have caught them blindsided.
The NYPD here at home, a department saying that there is no specific threat here, but how might U.S. law enforcement agencies monitor and respond when something like this happens abroad?
There's always a concern of copycats, because let's face it, if these were explosions, let's say they're suicide bombers, which my guess is at least some of them would be, it doesn't take much to plan that. And so a little additional security will basically deter somebody from going in perhaps with a suicide vest or a bomb.
A lot of information still coming in this morning. Brad Garrett from Washington, we appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here.